there's an update in the Trayvon Martin story. You know, if you guys don't remember, he's a 17-year-old African-American kid who was walking home from a convenience store. He had bought candy and iced tea, and then a neighborhood watch male ended up shooting him for no apparent reason. But they have actually released the audio tapes of the 911 calls from that day, and now his parents are calling for a federal investigation because they don't trust the Florida Police Department that was originally handling the case. And we actually have some of the audio for you guys to listen to.
Hey, we've had some break-ins in my neighborhood, and there's a real suspicious guy. It's Retrieve Circle. The best address I can give you is 111 Retrieve Circle. This guy looks like he's up to no good, or he's on drugs or something. It's raining, and he's just walking around looking about.
Okay, and this guy, is he white, black, or Hispanic?
He looks black.
Did you see what he was wearing?
Yeah, a dark hoodie, like a gray hoodie, and either jeans or sweatpants and white tennis shoes. He's here now. He was just staring.
Oh, he's just walking around the area?
At all the houses.
Okay.
Now he's just staring at me.
Okay, so it's 1111 retrieve you, or 111?
That's the clubhouse.
That's the clubhouse. Do you know what he's near the clubhouse right now?
Yeah, now he's coming towards me.
Okay.
He's got his hand in his waistband. And he's a black male.
Okay. How old would you say he
He's
looks?
got a button on his shirt. Late teens.
Late teens, okay.
Something's wrong with him. Yeah. He's coming to check me out. He's got something in his hands. I don't know what his deal is.
Okay, just let me know if he does anything, okay? Yeah, we got him on the way. Just let me know if this guy does anything else.
Okay. These assholes, they always get away. Shit, he's running.
He's running? Which way is he running?
Down towards the other entrance of the neighborhood.
Okay. Which entrance is that he's heading towards?
The back entrance.
Are you following him?
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need you to do that.
Okay.
So as you can hear on the tapes, they say don't follow him. He follows them anyway. Obviously, very damaging part is when he says they always get away. And apparently he'd called 911, of course, many times before because he's looking for a confrontation. What I found most interesting is when he kept projecting, saying, oh, now he's staring at me. Well, that's because you were staring at him. You kept staring at him and called 911 on the guy. He's probably wondering, why is this guy staring at me?
And he's talking about him.
Right.
Maybe he could hear you.
Right, and he says, oh, he sounds like he looks like he's hammered or wasted. There's something wrong with him. But now we find out the cops actually did not do what they were supposed to do, which was to find out if the shooter had actually been intoxicated. And some are saying that on the tapes, if you listen to the whole thing, Zimmerman sounds like he might be intoxicated. The whole thing is a projection. And then, of course, we know that he follows him and then eventually shoots him.
Yeah.
And yet doesn't get arrested.
All right, so
Steve.
last week I brought up the issue of self-defense and a duty to retreat. So in most states, if you are presented with the imminent threat of grave bodily harm or death, you have a duty to retreat from the situation unless you are in your own home. Florida is one of those states where you do not have the duty to retreat. So you can, quote, stand your ground and fight back. Now, self-defense is an affirmative defense, meaning that you have the burden of proof, the one who's claiming self-defense. So here, Zimmerman has the burden of proof. He has to prove that he was acting in self-defense. So when the police chief says things like, well, we have no evidence to say that it was not self-defense, that's nonsense, because he should have been arrested, investigated, and if his claim is self-defense, then he has to prove it. It is his duty and his burden to prove that, in fact, it was self-defense.
And two other things here. Yes, you don't have to retreat in Florida, but that doesn't mean you could run after the guy, right? I mean, he didn't. Not only did he not retreat, not only he didn't stand his ground, he ran towards the guy. Look, think about that, right? Because in order for the self-defense to work, he has to say like, "Oh my God, I was put in imminent danger," right?
Yeah.
But as Misty's pointing out, he's the one that created danger in the first place by running after the guy when the 911 dispatcher told him, "Don't run after the guy," right? And then they always get away, of course. And then the second part is what Steve mentioned last week. which is it has to be proportional force. In order to use fatal force, you have to think that your life is in danger, right? So what did he think he was going to do? Trayvon was going to kill him with his bag of Skittles?
Yeah, punch him to death? What could he possibly do?
Yeah, also, you have to prove two things. We have to make two showings. One is that a reasonable person in your situation would reasonably believe that his life was in imminent danger. And two, that you actually believed it, right? So would a reasonable person who's 28 years old and armed with a gun be reasonably afraid for their life when confronted with this 17-year-old boy who weighs 140 pounds, 100 pounds less than you? Is that reasonable? Okay, so that's one standard. And then the second thing is that he actually believed it. So Zimmerman has to have actually felt, oh my God, I feel so threatened, and that feeling has to be reasonable. So it's a very tough standard to prove, and the fact that he wasn't even arrested is unbelievable.
Well, that's what everyone is so
to me.
outraged about. They're saying it's racial profiling, that if the killer was black, he would have been arrested.
Well, look, I mean, whether it's racial or some other reason for this bias, there's a clear bias here. Whether he was paid off, maybe he's best friends with the police chief, maybe he dated the police chief's daughter, who knows? Or the police chief hates black people. I have no idea what the bias is, okay? But it looks, on the face of it, it's a racial bias.
Look, there's some chance that the police chief is just protecting the other cops that showed up on the scene by doing this half-assed nonsense investigation where he assumes that everything that the shooter said is 100% true.
Which is ludicrous.
And that he has met all obligations, which he has clearly not met. But the first cop that showed on the scene, there's less question about because he doesn't, as I just told you, doesn't do the intoxication test on Zimmerman, but that's the least of it. Last week we reported to you that one of the witnesses said, I heard the boy shout out for help, right? And the cop says, no, you didn't. You heard Zimmerman shout out for help. She's like, no, but I heard the opposite. And then when you look at the overall investigation by the police, witnesses came out last week saying, we asked them to call us. We are witnesses. Can you call us and find out what happened? The cops have not called them because they don't want to find out the truth. At the very least, they're protecting the initial guy who came in and immediately assumed the white guy was right and the black guy who was dead was wrong, okay?
He wasn't actually white, though. I think he was Hispanic.
His dad is claiming that he's at least part Latino, to which I say, so what? What, Latinos can't be racist against black people? What, is that a new rule I'm unaware of? And then, look, crimes happen, right? And this was a particularly atrocious crime. I think the reaction by the police is much worse.
It is worse, and here's why. Obviously, it's bad for Trayvon and his family that nothing is being done. But it's also bad for society. When you have a police department that does not enforce the laws appropriately and fairly, it invites just massive chaos and vigilante justice. And you know what? I mean, if that's a standard, I could just basically kill whoever I want, just initiate a little fight with the guy, and then just pull out a gun. Like if I wanted to kill you, I just bump into you, call you names, push you, and then when you push me back, I pull out a gun and shoot you. Self-defense.
Yeah,
right?
You might not even have to start the fight because if the standard is, well, the guy claims self-defense and the other guy's dead, so I believe the guy who's still alive, okay, then you just go around shooting everybody.
I mean, this is clown-ass justice. I mean, it's not justice at all, in fact, right? I mean, this is nonsense.
The police saving their asses.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is why we got to have good laws and good enforcement of laws. Otherwise, you just invite people to take matters into their own hands, which will lead to way more deaths and more injustice. It's a horrible situation.